During our conversation, we might be met with some cats that might be
That
jumping
don't
in.
worry. That
All
is
right.
gonna be part of the conversation because that is a huge chunk of our life over here too. So
All right. There's,
trust me.
there's one already. One is eyeballing me right now.
Hey everybody, it's Matt. Wrestling with Whiskey is back. Another episode of straight shooting coming at you for there, and a new precedent being set because for the first time we will not be drinking whiskey, and we'll get into a little chat as to why. But somebody who's always been very cool with me from the minute he walked in the door, and I can't wait to see what more he does and everything like that. Everybody, please welcome Tommy and. Tommy, how you doing, buddy? Good to have you.
Hello, guys. Well, thank you very much for having me. And I like the fact that you made that intro with straight shooting, but not with whiskey.
Yeah,
Straight shooting with probably a glass of water. But I've
dude.
got it right here, which is premium
Oh,
Zephyr Hills, all
Zephyr
100%
Hills,
natural.
baby. Yeah.
Florida spring water. So we got that good shit. Is what we got. Bottoms up.
That yes, I remember from the very first time at FCW that all over the gas station, Florida people know what we're talking about. Yeah, the Zephyr Hills water is was the go-to, the gallon jugs, man, all the
Is
time.
it Zephyr? I thought it was Saph. No, of course it's not Sapphire. But I
Yeah.
thought it was spelled this way, kind of as a play on words. Like, oh, like we kind of mean Sapphire, but it's not
Right.
Sapphire, so it's Zephyr Hills. Okay, me
Zephyr
and my
cuz yeah,
stupid European mess. All right, there
Zephyr
we
Hills
go.
is a town. It's a town I think north of Tampa.
You learn new things every single day about Florida
Yep.
and water. So
100%, man. It's an educational show at its very, very core. Um,
yes, yes.
but no, first and foremost, I mean, so the last coming couple of weeks, overall, how you been? How's
I've
things?
been really good, man. I'm good. I mean, everything has its ups and downs, and you would understand better than anyone, obviously, that what happened. Like, we can't have this conversation without briefly glancing over it. You know what I mean? It comes and goes. Sometimes you feel great, because of all the good stuff that is happening outside of the playing field and all the opportunities that come up to you and all the. And sometimes, yeah, because it's been 4 or 5 years of your life, and most of us dedicated everything we had, sacrificed everything we had for it, and all of a sudden, that part is not necessarily gone, but it has to change direction. So sometimes, that direction um, is like I wouldn't say it's loss of direction, but the adjustment of the road can sometimes be a little bit like, oh, I can't do that anymore. I have to do it. I was in the store yesterday, and a guy. It's kind of weird. I was in Target yesterday with a buddy, and and you know how it is when people recognize you, they do one or two things. They walk up to you, or they stop and they go, "Uh oh, is that?" And you can just spot them from the corner of your eyes. I'm talking to my buddy Charlie, and I'm like, Charlie, I think some two people recognize me, and they just stood dead still, and they walked kind of slide past me, and I'm standing staring straight at Charlie. The cashier's in my back. Charlie, are they taking pictures? He's like, well, she's like her boyfriend is standing there, and she just pretends to take a picture of him, but I think it's really a picture of you. So I turn around and I'm like, you can just walk up and ask a picture, right? And he kind of goes like, up, and he turns completely red and he looks at me and he's like, oh, I'm just a really big fan. I'm like, I appreciate that. And like the
Yeah.
guy's name was Nick. It was really funny. You know, and then someone else spotted that and walks up to me and he's like, what do you do for a living? And then it gets tricky because he recognizes you from the fact that you were once in the WB, and now you have to explain to this person, like, well, about 2 weeks ago I was in the WB, and now I'm not, and it was that's the adjustment that I'm talking about, because you want to say, oh, I wrestle for a living, and then you have your standard like rapid fire answers ready for when that situation arises, because like you go through it without trying to sound like an arrogant prick. You go through these things with people obviously know who you are, and they talk to you, and they engage in these conversations with you. So a lot of times the questions are very similar, which is fine, but now the answers to those same questions are slightly different, and that's that little adjustment I'm talking about, because then the realization kicks in where you're like, oh, well, So, but all in all, dude, I can't lie. If I speak to my agent every day, and all the cool things that are coming in, not everything necessarily wrestling related, just the wrestling and the non-wrestling things that are coming in, the people that have shown an interest in working with me, is mind blowing. And I think that's like why people are so flabbergasted, why I'm not like immediately dove into the negativity and all that stuff. I'm like, because if I wouldn't have done the previous 4 or 5 years, no matter how I feel personally about things that have happened, because of course I'm not happy with everything, but I just don't want to talk about that just yet. You know what I mean? Like I want to process a lot of things first. But if I wouldn't have had the previous 4 or 5 years of my life, all these people would have not known me and not wanting to talk to me and not get me on either their shows or their programs or their television stuff or their movie stuff or these, my agent like briefly glanced at something that like, and this is a pitch, this is not a set thing, so please, dirt sheets, don't run wild with this. Like, like someone from Netflix reached out and was like, hey, you know what I mean? And it's just stuff like that like makes everything, like it gives you that sense of like, hey, you know what? It's going to be okay. It's going to be all fine. No matter what, it's going to be fine. And I think for most of us, I think that's where it lies. The feeling is like, am I going to be okay? That's the main thing, because you've purposely let them sweep the rug under your feet and grab onto their rope, and their rope has guided you through these 4 or 5 years. But now the rope is gone, and now you have to land back on your feet, and that part is, that's the tricky part. And obviously, that as well. And obviously you've done very well for yourself. You've landed on your feet pretty well. And, even so, we can't talk about it, but the stuff that you just previously talked to me about seems like you're heading to some really, really cool places. So that's, for your fans, it's obviously good to know. And without saying too much, I think that's like really, really cool to hear. And I'm really proud of you. You're one step ahead of me when it comes to that regard, because that is something that I've always wanted to do. So, again, congratulations, and in due time, your fan base will absolutely find out what that is. But so it takes a while to adjust. But man, it's I said it to Renee as well. I can't be mad, man. I just cannot be mad.
Yeah,
it is what it is.
You put it, and that's the point when last year kind of went through a similar thing, and like it's true. And I mean, like you put it so well, like, and yeah, you're gonna have those moments where you're like, fuck, I'm pissed about this, pissed about that. But overall, I mean, I am a firm believer in one of those people who's like, yeah, feel your feelings, but I mean, at the end of the day, that energy, it got you where you were, and now you got to go where you're gonna be, and that negative energy ain't gonna help you get to where you need to be.
No.
So like, to dwell on it and all that stuff, appreciate what happened. Yep, you have your little bit of whatever, you feel how you feel, and then it's onward. You know what I mean? It's onward, it's upward, and it's positive energy, and it's put that out into the world, and that's the kind of thing that comes back to you for sure.
Yeah. No, exactly. I couldn't have said it better. Exactly. Yep.
But so before we get too far though, so yeah, obviously this is people watching this. This is our usual whiskey show. We're sampling through whiskeys. And one of the reasons I shot you a little message. I was like, hey, if you want to have some whiskey on the show, let's talk. And then you brought up that you're having your Zephyr Hills water there. But one of the reasons I did is because I do remember way back when you were still with NXT, we were doing European tour, and you came in, brought into catering, and you sat down at the table with us, put a nice bottle of whiskey on the table, and shared it with a couple of the boys. I was like, oh shoot, fellow whiskey fan, cool. So we'll talk a little bit about that. But you have since made the decision to no longer drink as part of your life and everything. So tell me a little bit about coming to that decision.
So, this dives a little bit into my childhood as well. Bad experiences with alcohol growing up. not to like, and like I can't like talk about it in a sense because like, this individual is still alive, and I don't want to undo all their hard work, right? Because they've worked tremendously hard to not be that person anymore and to get rid of that. But that influenced me very much as a kid. So very much negative experiences with alcohol as a kid. I had alcohol poisoning, and I would drink sometimes on school days. I would get completely obliterated on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, sometimes Sunday, whilst already being like, wrestling and stuff like that. And just like always like reaching for alcohol because it was an escape. I was never a drug person. But because of like, the way that my childhood was kind of like difficult because of that. I grew up in a surrounding where I would surround myself with people that were not necessarily bad people, but they abused themselves very much. And as a kid, if you surround yourself with people that do that, you start becoming like that because you're very susceptible to these things, right? So, and I briefly spoke about this with someone else like about a week ago. I remember waking up in I was really into skateboarding and stuff. So I was like I did like martial arts and skateboarding and stuff like that. And I remember waking up in a squatter house, and I used to like hang out with my friends and roll squatters and stuff. And they would squat houses, and we would set up shop there. We would like build skate ramps inside like the houses and stuff like that. It was cool when you think about it. And I've met a lot of good friends. I got a lot of life experience from it. But I remember one specific moment when I woke up, and it was after a night of partying. And obviously, I remember sleeping on some destroyed bed, and I would grab not blankets, but like the cushions, and I would build myself like a cushion blanket basically because there was no blankets, just to kind of keep warm because it was cold. And I remember wake up and I kicked the pillows off of me and stuff, and I looked to the left and there's a dude laying with a needle in his arm. And I'm 15 years old, and I'm looking at that. I'm like, fuck. And the dude just kind of like is like obviously completely zoned out. And I looked to my left, and there's like two more people over there, like already drinking. This is like 9 a.m. and shit. And they're like people getting high, people doing drugs, people still going on from the same night. It was at that point where like you're 15, you kind of go like, this is probably not the best environment for me as a kid to be in. But and it didn't stop there because actually like my behavior in terms of like alcohol kind of like exacerbated. There's a lot of stuff that my parents like don't even know. I've never really shared this story with anyone. And it exacerbated. I grew up very angry, a very violent childhood, and alcohol was a thing for me that either like numbed it, but at the same time exacerbated my behavior. So at one point, I kind of got control over it. I wouldn't say that I was ever like an alcoholic or something, but it was definitely something that I would put next to me. It was something that was in my daily life in terms, it wasn't controlling me, but it was definitely something where I was like, no, I choose to, drink, and I choose to, do all these crazy fucking things. And that went on for a very, very long time. I've spoken about mental health stuff and mental problems that I have like prior on different conversations with different people. And, those do not go hand in hand at all. They make it worse. So I was just continuously in a spiral of making every fucking thing worse and worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And when I was 28, I got diagnosed with depression. And it was at that point where I kind of went like, I was like, okay, something needs to change. Now I will say that at that point, that behavior already kind of like, I slowed down my drinking, but every once in a while I would have my spurts and I would, get obliterated. Not to the point where it's like, we all get drunk sometimes, like everybody who drinks every once in a while, it takes one too many and it's like, oh, party time, so it wasn't as bad as in my childhood, but I started eliminating more and more and more and more till at one point, after that diagnosis, I went to WB when I got signed when I was 30. And I really barely drunk every once in a while. And then one of the few times that I did drink was with you guys on tour. because I wanted to, because I'm new. I wanted to get to know everybody, and I feel that in social circles, I think alcohol is a very, very good thing. Like, it loosens up people, it relaxes people, it calms people. Everybody like enjoys, their beverage, and I feel that, especially now, those locker rooms, there weren't like abusive locker rooms where like people were getting completely obliterated every night, but people had to drink, and that was fun. So I felt comfortable in partaking. Plus, I felt that it was important for me to sit down with all of you and for you guys to get to know me, because we were all in the same locker room, and I want people to know who I am, out of courtesy, but also because that's, how I was trained as a wrestler. Like, people need to know you. Specifically, if you're new, you have to make sure that, you don't do that tour and then fuck off to your hotel room. You know what I mean? Make sure that people see you, make sure that you can talk to people and like establish relationships. These people are your colleagues. So, I've always found that whatever job I did, I found it important for us to have a connection, right? For you and I to not necessarily be friends, but at least that you sat down with me and that we got to know each other a little bit. I find that bond, that friendship, that connection, I find that important with people that I trust my life to in the ring. You know what I mean? So it was 3 years ago. And I think at that point, I hadn't touched a glass of alcohol in maybe a year. And it was this one night, and me and my wife, Thea, were sitting down, and I kind of got an appetite for it. And I was like, you know what? I haven't had a drink in a year. I'm going to have a drink. I poured a glass of whiskey, Jura whiskey, the same whiskey that I had on tour. Really good whiskey. Still have the bottle. I poured it. I sat down. I took one sip. And my whole body went, nope. Nope.
Wow.
For some reason, my body just resisted it. It was like my tongue, it changed. And my body was just no longer willing to drink. Like, it was very strange. And I looked at Thea, and Thea had a glass of vodka, and she kind of had the sense, she's like, it just doesn't taste the way that it used to taste. And it's really, I can't explain it. And at that point, I just kind of went and I looked at the bottle, and I looked at whiskey. I poured the whiskey back in, which I know is a big error in whiskey world. But I poured it back, and I've not touched alcohol since. And it's not because I hate alcohol, because I hate drinking. It's just, I felt that it was no longer for me. I felt that I just don't enjoy it anymore. And there's nothing wrong with people drinking alcohol. I've seen people saying, "Oh, he's straight edge." I'm like, no, I'm not. I just don't drink, and I've never really done drugs, and it's not because I follow a code or something. It's just what I am. It's just how I feel things. If I don't want to do something and I want to do something, it's not because I feel like I need to follow a code or anything. And even if you do, there's nothing wrong with that. That's fine. It's just, this is the way it worked for me. And just like I said, like I had that zip, because I would pour maybe this, and that would last me a good hour. A good hour and a half. I wasn't a fast drinker at all. And it just, I don't know, man. It was like the words, it's not for me, just kept popping in my head. And at that point, it was just done. And I don't miss it. I don't think about it other than this conversation. And I think also because of my childhood being, being so heavily involved with alcohol myself, and the people that I was surrounding myself with, and then in my childhood as well. I don't know, maybe my body was just like, you've done this enough, and you're no longer you're no longer that person. So this is not a part of you anymore. That's kind of how I see it,
dude. And that's an incredible. I don't know. It's like, I don't even know what to call it. Whether it's like a talent or it's like an innate thing. Like for that, for your body and yourself to have that kind of like, I don't know, call it self-awareness or something, just to know your body kind of knows sometimes stuff that we can't even comprehend at the time. And it's just, I think we've all had those moments where it's just like, nope, that light bulb goes off, and it's just like, I can't tell you exactly why, but this is no longer for me. This is not
Yeah.
then that is really, really good. And yes, this is a show we talk about alcohol and stuff a lot, but we
And
talk about,
we're gonna
oh yeah,
we're gonna definitely talk about the alcohols that I liked. Like, don't get me wrong. We're definitely gonna talk about it. It's just like they are no longer present in my
yeah.
in my surroundings when it comes to that. But like I said, we're definitely going to talk about some of the whiskeys that I liked when I grew up. Absolutely, and the ones that I used to like as a
Sure.
adult. I don't mean to say I'm not an adult.
Not, I mean, we all got into pro wrestling. None of us are truly adults at the end of the day.
No, no.
So yeah. Um, no, so like, and we will jump back to that. But something I wanted to ask other people, and I want to start asking
Sure.
this more often to all my brothers and my sisters. And because pro wrestling is such a funny thing, and it's such a funny business, and it's people from all walks of life. Where I feel like a lot of other industries, especially in whether it is sports or entertainment or whatever, kind of are on a track. And it's like, if I wanted to be a Hollywood actor, you start doing the plays as a kid and you do high school theater and you go to a college to study acting. Or if you want to be a football player, you join football and then you go collegiate and then you get drafted. And like, I don't know, whereas wrestling drags people from all over the place. There's so many talents involved. And so I guess with your skill, you talk about doing martial arts, you talk about doing all this stuff. I know you're big into music, all this stuff. You could have been potentially a lot of things. So for you as a performer, why pro wrestling over all these other ways to express yourself, to compete, etc.? Why pro wrestling?
So that's a question I've asked myself like very often, right? And I think we all ask that, but I think that the answer, other than like, the obvious that we are drawn to, like, stage lights, entertainment, traveling, the road, all those things. I think it's very difficult to put in a verbular sense, to verbalize why, because it's the same with the conversation we just had about the whiskey in my body just going, nope. I saw wrestling as a kid, and I gravitated towards it. It just grabbed me. Like, I cannot express what it was, but immediately it was just, and it just never let me go. And there's something magical about watching professional wrestling. If you let it, there's something magical about watching it, because here you have a theater that is surrounded in surrealism, but at the same time, we present a conflict, a fight that makes sense in a world that does not make sense. But somehow our brain processes it and we understand it. We can't quite put our finger on it, but it makes sense. The theater combat of it makes sense whilst we fly from the top rope, jumping with our legs around someone's neck and flipping them over. We push them up in the air, we European uppercut them, or, you know what I mean? And there was something about that surrealism, and I'm sorry I'm Dutch, so that's my accent you hear right now.
No.
Like the surrealism of it that makes us gravitate to it, because it's almost like watching a magic show unfold, right? Magic doesn't make sense, but still you're looking at it, and they saw the lady in half, and you're mesmerized by it, and then put it back together, and you're even more mesmerized because what did you just watch? And that part of it, that magic, is so hard to put under words. I love traveling. I love the road. I'm one of the few people that love driving through states. Music on. I can't wait to hit the town. I see all you boys there. We have a fantastic time. We rile the crowd up. We go backstage. We hit the shower. We jump in the car for another 6 hours. 3 hours in, we hop in the hotel, sleep, wake up at 6, hit the gym, right back onto the. I love that. That is the thing about wrestling that I absolutely love. It's the brotherhood. It's the towns. It's the different gyms. It's the different people. It's the small towns versus the big towns. It's airport in, airport out. And yes, all of us are miserable when we're doing it, but we also goddamn love it. But that's something that wrestling gave us. Why I love wrestling? Ask me that at the end of my career. And I can hopefully give you an answer that does that question justice, because I don't think that I have anything for you right now that I can literally tell you this is why. I can't, because it's the lady saw in half. That's it for me. It's the how is that possible? It makes no sense, but it makes sense. This world isn't real, yet I understand why he's flying off the top rope when he just punched him in the face.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely. You talk about now, you're like, hey, you're not giving a good enough answer. Now that's an incredible answer, and one that I think obviously anybody in the business understands that kind of innate thing. But it's also something why obviously TV wrestling has become the way of now and likely the way of the future and everything. But God, anybody who I tell who's not familiar, and I'm like, yes, you can turn on Monday Night Raw. Yes, you can turn on any number of television shows and everything like that.
Sure.
But if you're going in with this idea and you don't know really what it is, you might be skeptical. It's kind of hard from your couch, I think, to really get that magic. I'm like, please, if you get the chance, and this is why this year has been so hard. I'm like, go to a live event. I don't care if it's WWE. I don't care if it's your local indie, whatever. I'm like, go. If you don't know anything, I guarantee you will have a good time. You're right. It's just within the limits of like reality, like, because the things are happening. Those two guys or those two girls are doing these things. They flying, wrestling around. Yeah. So it is happening in front of me, but it's just also beyond like standard reality that it's kind of mesmerizing. And like the minute you walk through those doors and sit in that seat, the real world kind of closes up, and you can kind of let it go for a second. So I'm like, as much as there is on TV and the internet, I'm like, please, when you get the chance, go sit down in a seat with a crowd and watch that. That is where you will fall in love with it.
Yeah, 100%. And I think for us as the boys, like our love for pro wrestling turns into love for the things that our colleagues do. And I think you say it like, perfectly well when you see these two competitors compete against one another, and the way you and I look at, wrestler A and wrestler B, you and I are picking it apart, and it just makes us so exciting to watch, like our friends or colleagues, our locker room, like, picking this in a positive way apart, and just go like, man, wrestler A is so good. Man, wrestler B does that. So, immediately the cogs start turning, and you start picking up on things, and you start understanding why they implement their psychology that way, and why, they jump off the ropes that way, or why they lean into this that way. And I think that for us eventually becomes like the part of the expertise, whilst being an active competitive pro wrestler. The expertise of it for us becomes the secondary passion, where we really like dive into the little detailing. It's like the polishing of everything. And man, it is the single greatest business, competition, show, form of entertainment, in my opinion, that exists, because it's so layered.
Yeah, it literally, I mean, it is something, it is a little bit of everything that you can get from live entertainment. That's 100%. And so, yes, good out there, people. Go support your local indies and everything when they start coming back, please.
Absolutely.
But so outside of pro wrestling, you did talk about it a little bit too. Before we get to the whiskey, you do some other like martial arts and stuff like that. When did you start doing that? And obviously, you were talking to me today about where you were before this, so you're still doing it. Yeah. When did that kind of love start?
So actually, it started with professional wrestling, because I was a kid when I saw it for the first time, and I saw these guys compete in the ring, right? And although my first experience watching wrestling was WWF at the time, we only had New Japan growing up on a channel called Eurosport. And so I saw the more martial arts, competitive, realism kind of professional wrestling that our colleagues in Japan offer. And I was so mesmerized by that I thought that I was just watching, because it's at the same time where I'm watching movies like Bloodsport and all these like action movies based around kickboxer, like all these like type of movies. So I'm thinking that I'm watching martial arts. So as in my childlike mind, it's like I gotta do martial arts. So my parents put me on karate and judo, and that's kind of how that started. And then I transitioned to penchak silat, and I transitioned to like kickboxing. And then by the age of 15, I got the opportunity to train professional wrestling, and I jumped on, and I left martial arts. I left martial arts for I left it for a while, at least 7 years. I didn't really do martial arts. I just did professional wrestling, and I guess that it was I want to say 2007, maybe 2006, seven, where I worked at a place where we rehabilitated people, like people's lifestyles, and people that had accidents and stuff like that. Some of them worked with like people that had an amputated leg and stuff like that, or psychological trauma. And we kind of, we worked in their vitality, basically changing their lifestyle. So, and one of the people had an idea of implementing like, a more like martial arts kind of regime to get people's confidence back up. And they were asking internally, does anyone have like some experience doing martial arts? And I said like, well, I do. And we set up a kickboxing class, just back training and pad training. And I completely immediately fell in love with it again. Plus, I felt for the longest time that I missed something in my training, and I wanted to go back to martial arts. I wanted to go back to kickboxing. And as soon as I did, everything just started falling back into place, because I was reevaluating my techniques that I was using in professional wrestling, and I was able to like put them under a microscope and perfect them. And I was doing better conditioning, because for me, Muay Thai or kickboxing, especially when you're doing rounds, comes, in my opinion, as close as active matches as you can be, because it's like spurts of like explosive energy with little breaks in between. So the love of professional wrestling and the love of martial arts, are clearly in my style very, very, very visible, because obviously the majority of my style is dominated by either martial arts or more like shoot holds and stuff like that. So I just never at that point let that go for like technique reasons, the love of martial arts, conditioning reasons, because for me, the two go hand in hand. And I feel that if I'm someone that has a style which is rooted in striking and kicking and holds and legitimate like stuff, I need to be able to, walk the walk when it comes to that stuff. So that's why I still train today. And like you were saying, I actually just came back from Muay Thai class about an hour and a half ago, and it was one of the hardest trainings I've had in a while. He decided at the last round, in the last minute, he wanted to finish like Thai style. And what that means is that like you do 10 kicks on the left, 10 kicks on the right until the minute's done. So he goes 10 and then 10 and then 10 and then 10. So I managed to hit 60 kicks in 58 seconds. So I felt pretty good with that one. I felt pretty good with that one, and they weren't sloppy kicks neither. So I was like, okay, I'll take it. And but just like, stuff like that, because as well as I do that there was moments in your match where you're absolutely gassed out, but here comes that spot, and now you have to go. You can't say no. You can't say, oh, give me a second, because that's not how our stuff works. You have to go, and this is the same principle. If he tells me, no, you got 10 seconds left, you better hit those 10 kicks on the left side. You have to go. Mm-hmm. And if you don't, that's where the difference lies between being a good competitor and just someone who's like doing it. You know what I mean? And I don't feel like either of you and I are just guys that just do it, because I remember a story about you, okay, and that always that always stuck with me. I remember when you told me when you guys got off the plane in England for Takeover that the first thing that you and Gable did was hit the gym, and you hit legs. And I always felt, and I kind of like felt like, damn, you guys did legs? And he's like, yep, we went full force. We dropped our shit at the hotel, went to the nearest gym, jet lagged and all, and we banged out like an hour and a half leg session. And of course, Chad Gable is a monster. That dude is a beast. Like, I have, if there's anyone that can eat up the entire roster, it's him.
Oh yeah,
it's him. That dude will annihilate anyone. That like there's a reason he's an Olympian, and he might be a small, lean, stocky guy, but he will eat you up. So yeah, you know what I mean? And so when you told me that you went to do legs with him, I'm like, All right, Matt's on a different level. Matt's on a
Oh
different
no,
level.
no. Let me clear this mystery up right now because, like, I mean, yes, I did do that, and yes, whatever. I'm proud of that. But I believe that was because that was on the tour where it was Jordan and Gable and Jordan, so it was American Outfitters still together.
Another one, by the way,
Yes,
Jordan.
beast. So they were like, all right, we're gonna do this tour, and I think they had done it before me, but I wasn't on the tour with them, so I was on there with this one, and we would always ride together. And they were like, all right, we're all on the full 2 weeks, which all told with travel and everything ends up being more than two. It's like 19 days all across Europe, and they're like, all right, we're working out every day. No rest days, every single day. I don't care what the travel is. Like we're all agreed, right? And I was like, it was like that. I'm like, I can't say no. The two like collegiate Olympian level athletes are saying we're going to do this, and they're kind of my riding buddies. So I'm like, yep, we're going to do this. And so yeah, we would did it. Do a show, take a charter plane, land at 5 a.m, go down to they'd have catering already because we were ready there for breakfast. Have that, and then went to the gym. Yep, and did squats and stuff. Oh my god, I don't know how I lived. But yeah, people like that. It is you just go, and sometimes but like what you're talking about. Sometimes you just got to test yourself that way, and that's the only way you get better is you push past those limits, and you go, and then you look back and you go, holy crap, I can do X, Y, Z. You know what I mean?
I did that. Yeah, you did that. That's like I remember you telling me that story, and I just kind of went like, damn, that's on a different level. Fuck, you know what I mean? Because that takes some like willpower because when we train, we train, whether that's in ring, whether that is just body weight stuff in your hotel room, because I'm sure just like me you have plenty of those exercises.
Mm-hmm.
We go because it's that mental, no, I got to do it right. It's the reason why you got on top. It's the reason why you went to the dance. That's the reason. That's the difference maker. I feel for a lot of people is that, and like this is an attitude that can grow. Don't get me wrong what I'm about to say. But I think that not everybody understands what it takes. And maybe this is a better way of explaining it, right? I will much rather fall flat on my face and lose all my opportunities, but knowing that I did absolutely everything, and I mean every single thing that I could have done, versus, I didn't get it, but I mean at the same time, I kind of fucked up in the gym, or I kind of fucked up. You know what I mean? I don't want to live with that regret. I don't. I really, really don't. So, when I hear stuff like that, it makes me proud because it feels like I'm among professionals. It makes me feel like I'm among people that can push me harder. Because when you told me that, funny enough, we had the tour a few months later, and I remember that story. And I remember landing, going to the gym because of you telling me that story. But hey, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because sometimes you need to hear someone else's attitude towards something to go, right, this dude's right. You got to go. You know what I mean? And I think that was with NXT that we went to the UK. I think it was the download one. Plus we had a tour after the download tour. And I always remember that. And we had a good hotel gym, actually, like a full decked out gym in that hotel. So it had like it had squat racks and stuff. We got really good leg presses and stuff. So I just kind of went like, nope, I'm doing it. So that's something that I've never told you, but that's how you've inspired me. Cool, right?
I think that's the first person I've ever inspired to do leg day ever with my lanky ass. But
I'm lanky too, man. I'm lanky as hell.
Hell yeah. But we have something else we have in common is we both met our spouses through not only wrestling but through WWE. So
and both are Hispanic.
Yes, that's very true. And so tell me a little. I mean, just you can give me the boilerplate version of just how you guys met, and did you have that little that awkward of do we tell anybody? Do we keep it quiet? Do we do this? Do we ride together? Do we not? Do we say anything? Blah blah blah. I love the little dance people. Other couples I've known done that. So tell me a little bit about that.
So we initially started out as just being friends, And of course, I knew that she was like, of course, I thought she was pretty. Of course, I thought she was fun, and of course, I thought she was like, someone that I had a good connection with. But we didn't start out that way. But she was definitely someone that I kind of felt like drawn to, in a sense where she was a bit of an outcast on her own. I've always been a bit of an outcast, and I felt very exiled in NXT. I felt like I was very on my own, and not that that's necessarily a bad thing, because I've always been that dude that's kind of been on his own. Shocker. Yeah, and she was too, and that kind of made us gravitate towards each other, and it's kind of like this veil being pulled off, and it's kind of like you kind of start thinking about it a little bit more, and then like the traveling became more than just traveling, and you really you already had that connection, you already you already really liked each other, and it wasn't really difficult at that point. And I never met a person in my life where I got along with so easy, so well, and understands me without me having to say anything as as her. She was and is my best friend, and sometimes I think she was from day one. Like it's just that is that like I can't really. It's like that wrestling thing, right? That we just spoke about. It's very difficult to explain, because I generally felt that once I knew that she was the person I wanted to spend the rest of my life with, everything fell in place, and kind of like all the worries kind of went. And it wasn't without struggle. But then again, I think nothing in life is worth it if it doesn't have at least some form of struggle, because it also makes you realize what the other one is worth. It's a difficult thing to explain, but at the same time, it just felt really easy. And I think 6 months down the line, after we started dating, I asked her to marry me, because I was just kind of like, well, this is it. And I generally think that is the single best decision I've ever made in my life, because everything in my head calmed down, everything in my life fell into place, and I like to think sometimes that she saved a big part of me as a person by just letting me be me and accepting that part, versus in the past where I've dealt with people that always try to make me something that I was not, or turn me into something that or someone that I wasn't, causing a lot of conflict. And she's just the individual that's always just kind of like, whether I was here or whether I was there, she would just let me be, and she would let me figure it out. And then when the time was right, she would sit right back next to me. You know what I mean? And that was very telling. Never telling me what to do, never telling me how to do it. Understanding that there was emotional baggage that came with it. At the same time, I understood there was emotional baggage coming with her, because obviously she's not had the easiest of lives. But I generally feel that we are made for each other. Like, there is not a shred of doubt in my mind that this is the woman I'm going to spend the rest of my life with. And I feel so comfortable saying that. And that's new, because I've never had that in my life, where I can generally say, and we've already been married almost 3 years. I can comfortably say that, no, this is it. She's it. Like, everything is just good. I think that's the best way of describing it. It's all good. You know what I mean?
And that's so funny. And I think especially for us, again, pro wrestling is such a weird lifestyle, such a weird, schedule, career, all this stuff. You're in the spotlight, which can be uncomfortable for some people in and of itself. Yeah. And so I think that's why we often will gravitate to people who are in the business too. But even that, it can be so difficult. I mean, the business is so weird, so strange, competitive, and all this stuff. So I remember almost the exact same feeling you're talking about, easy. You're just how is all this clicking into place? And it's that's how you found the right one. It's where everyone else, or past experiences were so difficult, it just it's not always going to be easy, as we all know. You know what I mean? That's relationships, but just the idea of that initial, it's like, oh my, it's so easy to talk, easy to
Yep.
there's no game playing back and forth and all this stuff.
Nope. No,
Yeah,
there really is not. Yeah.
that's the best part, and that's such a hard thing to find in pro wrestling. So when you find that, latch on. Just like
Well,
wrestling did to us, you talk about just grabs you,
yep.
and you know what I mean.
Yep.
You got to hold on to that 100%.
Yep. And I don't know if you've had the same, like I just said, obviously we're both married to like Hispanic women. They are fiercely loyal to the
Oh
point
yeah.
where it's scary how loyal they are.
Yeah.
But like, and again, I mean that in the best of ways. I'm happy that she is who she is and that she does what she does. And, I'm always very proud of her for all the stuff that she does and like the amount of resilience that my wife has and the amount of patience that she has. Um, but yeah, as cliche as it sounds, right? Whenever people say, "Oh, talk to my better half," no, I generally feel that she is the better part of our union. You know what I mean? I don't think I could do half the things that I do now if it wasn't for her, like supporting me or like being there for me, even when even when things aren't fun. Even when things aren't like at the best, or even sometimes, because like you said, nothing is ever always easy. Even in times like that, she will make an effort, and I think again that's very telling because even when it's bleak, you got two types of people, and one person will stay, and the other person will run. And like she's stayed to all of it, and that's again, it makes you so much stronger to have so much more love for a person when you know that they embrace every aspect of you, even the bitter parts.
Yeah. 100%. And yeah, it's a rare and beautiful thing. So we get, you hold on to it, you appreciate it, and everything like that. And a little bit when we're leveraging, she brought some furry aspects to your life, and so you guys, you got to tell me, all right, because again, I'm in a similar situation here. So how many animals are in the home right now?
Well, let me correct you first. I was the one who had a cat. I had a cat first.
Oh,
I
you
brought the
were.
furry cat.
Oh,
Yeah.
it was you.
Yes. So
Okay.
we have 7 cats, and we had 6, and until 2 weeks ago we obtained another one through some weird twist of life. 3 of them are looking at me right now.
Yeah.
We have Toddy, which was the first Toddy Potato. Then we had Tubby Tomato, which is the second one. Then we had at the same time we got Phoebe Purrywall, and Phoebe is Thea's cat. Originally, she was the one that got adopted by Thea. And then we got Pickles Petunia Pumpkin, or also known as Combat Pickles, because she fights everyone. Then we had Betty Beats, but she has now been dubbed Weenie. We have Willow Walnut, who is laying in a little box right now looking at me. And recently we got Benny Blueberry, who is
Oh my God.
our latest little Bengal kitten that is running around somewhere. So, it's a party up in here all the time.
Yeah. So not only all the cat, but you had to just come up with the most like alliterative like long names too. I kudos to you for remembering them all. I don't know if even my own cats, I don't know if I can remember all of their names like that. Bravo to you. So how old is the oldest one? How old is yours?
Toddy is 4 now, but he's doing really good. He's a Persian. He's a big white fluffy Persian, but I think I got to take him to the doctor because he seems to have more excessive hair loss than usual. So he might be stressed out. There might be something. They're very sensitive animals,
Oh
cats,
yeah.
as you know. No, they're like, and he's 4, and then the youngest is 14 weeks.
Okay. Damn. So yeah,
It's like
you're
we're talking
running.
about our kids. Jesus.
You're running the spectrum. That's so funny that
Oh,
you're the cat person that brought it in too. That's really funny. That's
yeah,
fantastic.
love cats.
No, I always liked it too. I grew up with them. I like how chill they are. Like again, like they're not so as needy as I have a dog too. We have 4 cats and a dog here. But I grew up with all cats, and there's pictures of me as a little kid, like sleeping on the couch under a blanket, my fat ass orange cat, like then I'm just like hugging him like a pillow kind of thing, like with a bowl of popcorn like under my arm as I'm like falling asleep from a movie.
Like a big chunk, like a big
Yeah,
chunky
oh
cat.
yeah, big fat yellow cats. I can't or orange
Amazing.
cats. I can't emphasize how awesome. I don't know. I don't want to judge any animal by the color of its fur, but orange cats are awesome.
Mine orange cat is also a chunker. Like, wait,
Yes.
let me grab him. He's a big boy. Come here,
Oh boy.
Debbie. Come here.
Those of you who are on audio are missing out.
He's a big boy.
Oh yeah.
He's like out of all of them, like he might seem small, but his head is huge, and he's like
Yes.
he's bigger than most. He's also very muscly, and he's a very
Okay.
he's definitely not happy that I picked him up.
Keep
But yeah,
him
this
fit.
is I feel all orange cats are like big chunky cats. Let me put him back before he unleashes doom on me. But yeah, so there's definitely something for orange cats being big boys.
How often you got to vacuum?
I think about like twice, 3 times a week, but it's an impossible task, man.
Oh, yeah.
It is an impossible task. It's
Dude,
just
now
like,
here-
it's-
One question, and I'll move on. But like, so how do you guys feel? Are you declaw people or are you not declaw?
no, declawing is unnatural and it
Yes.
hurts them. It's a very like inhumane procedure. Like you can just snap their nails, you know.
Yeah.
So like I just trim their nails. That's literally what I do.
How's
Yeah,
your
no,
furniture?
declawing, absolutely not. Was that?
How's your furniture?
Not too bad. The couch is a
Okay.
little scratched up, but that's literally it. Like I also like I have exotics and Persians. For the most part, they're very like they're kind of bred with the same attitude as dogs. So they're very laid back animals. They're very cuddly, very comfort. They don't really get up too much other than like when it comes to food.
Okay, fair enough. But well, all right. I'll call all the way back to it. This is a whiskey show.
Yeah.
We'll talk. We'll call back to it a little bit. So, when you would enjoy it, and especially when you were in a good place, especially, yeah. What were some of the brands or bottles that you would kind of partake of?
So there was one that I really liked that I used to mix with cola every once in a while. It was called White Line, which was a relatively cheap one. But it was it was a good one to mix, but it also had a pretty good taste on its own. Like it wasn't a premium class whiskey, but the White Line was really good. Famous Grouse, I was always a pretty big fan of. And then my absolute favorite is a Scottish one, and that is called Jura with a wine. That's the one that I brought with me when we were at on the Loop or on the European tour. That's the one that you guys all had because there's something very sweet about that one, and I like sweet when I drink. I'm not a big fan of very bitter. I'm not a big beer fan, for instance. Like it's too bitter for me. I like my whiskeys also kind of have a little bit of a sweet aftertaste. So Jura was my absolute favorite because it kind of combined all the kind of wooden flavors with like a sweet aftertaste, and that's what I really liked about it. So those three. God, there was another one. There was a Dutch one. I think it was just called Amsterdam. I think it was just called Old Amsterdam. I'm not really like.
Okay.
Now I got to Google it because it's gonna
it's gonna bug you.
It's gonna bug me.
Which, while you do that, by the way, you talked about you poured the when you had your last drink, you poured it back into the bottle. That is not. That is you are a whiskey saint. You are a good. The crime is when you go, oh wait, never mind, I don't want this, and you pour it down the drain.
Oh really? I always thought it was a big no-no to put it back in the bottle I don't know why.
I mean, like maybe. If you did it, you were at somebody else's house and you're drinking their stuff and you're like, never mind, I'm going to pour my backwash back in your bottle. But like, But I'm the same way. Like if I go for it and I poured too big and I don't want it, I'm like I get a funnel and I pour it back in because that's
Yeah,
God's
I don't
nectar.
want to waste it. Yeah, I don't want to waste
Yeah,
it.
that's not a
Oh
drain
boy.
pour.
I can't wait. I have to type in local. It's gonna bug me so much. And then when this interview is over, I'm gonna find it and I'm gonna go, damn it.
Of
That's
course,
what it
that's always the way it works. 100%.
God damn it. I'm gonna ask my buddy. I'm gonna ask my friend.
And I can always add an addendum to the liner notes of the interview.
I'm gonna ask him. You're gonna hear some Dutch.
Oh, we're doing this live.
Hoe heet de lokale whisky uit Amsterdam? Ik kan niet meer op die naam komen. Weet jij nog hoe het heet? Yeah, a little Dutch for you.
A little culture. See?
A little culture.
International show, folks.
Us Dutch, you're so cultured. So cultured.
Anything more is beats Americans. It's all right. I mean, everyone beats us by a mile. It's fine.
I mean, yes and no, but at the same time, you know, there's a lot about the United States in terms of history that I enjoy. I love history. I'm a big history guy.
Sure.
You know, and you know, you have to look at the bad things as well. You know what I mean? But us as Dutch people, we did a lot of bad stuff too. We were awful, you know, awful people. I think, sure. Like I think that's always kind of the running joke because like the United States is such a young country, but at the same time, you know, the history is being made, and it's still like something that I find interesting in reading. You know, even like I said, it's the good and the bad, but I think history is riddled with good and bad things, but it's still like, you know, it's still part of the culture. It's still part of the, you know, the roots of the United States, like same as with the roots of the Netherlands. Like there's very fascinating things and things to read that I always find very. I think everybody should know the history, the real histories of the respective places that they live, right? So, yes, sure, I you know, I get it, but at the same time, I do thoroughly enjoy reading about how the United States came to be and how, you know, how the amendments were written and the Constitution and stuff like that. I find that very interesting. There's a very fascinating thing for me to kind of like see that process because a lot of people from the Netherlands have settled here too. There's a lot of places, like for instance, like Haarlem is a place in the Netherlands. It used to be called New Haarlem before they dubbed it Haarlem.
Really?
Yep.
Now I'm learning stuff. No kidding.
That was a Dutch settlement.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, you learn this. I had no idea. That's so cool. That you learn history. Yes, learn all of it, folks. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Well, while we wait for your friend to get back to you, I'm gonna rapid fire some of our questions from our Patreon members. Patreon.com/wrestlingwithwhiskey. Get the exclusive chance to talk to our guests, ask them questions. So running down the numbers here. So Lauren Casuto wanted to know, what's one of your best road stories from NXT? This is these questions are. What's your best road story? I'm like, I don't know.
You know how dull I am as a person.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm like, I don't know. We went to bed and then we got up and went to the gym.
Oh, there was one that I read a really good book. My best road stories. You know, the thing is, it's funny. Like this starts with the conversation where I say, like, you know, you have these answers ready for these questions. I feel like I never have an answer ready for this question because I just generally think that there is just not an answer for me for this. Like I have great memories of being in NXT. I have great memories of being on the road. I have great memories of like going from town to town, and and like remembering, you know, which crowds were like absolutely amazing and which crowds were like kind of like on the down. But you know, I think our entire crew, from at the time Tommaso and Johnny, Adam, era, you know, so Roddy and Kyle and Bobby, you name it, that entire crew of War Raiders and stuff, we were all very much show's done. Okay, let's go back to our rooms and talk to either like call our wives or like relax or like, we'll sit at the local bar for like a second or something. And we'll order some food, but man, for the most part, I just really enjoy shutting myself up, because I think the one thing with a lot of us as well is that like being around so many people all the time, like it overloads your sensors a lot, and like it's nice that I'm basically going from this massive adrenaline rush to kind of like settling back into your room and just kind of like unwind and relax and getting ready for the next day. Right, and get waking up and going to the gym. I feel like the culture when it comes to that is much healthier. I think in that same tour that you and I, where you and I kind of like met, and I shared that whiskey with everyone, is one of the first times where I sat down with, and I knew Samoa Joe for like a very long time. Joe's always been really good to me. I got to sit down with Roman as well, and it was one of the first times where I really felt how great Roman is of a locker room leader. So that's a good memory I have, where I was able to forge a bond and I kind of pick his brain on a few things, because I mean he's only the guy that carries our business. You know what I mean? It's
no kidding.
And it's same with the Usos and stuff, and sitting with you and with Rowan at the same time, and it was just like it was good. Like it was all good. It was comfortable, and I think as bad as some of the experiences was, the locker rooms were always great. Our locker rooms were lovely, and we had a lot of fun. And I feel that like we all felt comfortable around each other. I felt that the men's locker room was always super cool with each other.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Oh God, this question's a rib on me, kind of. So Dresden Nova wants to know: do you think there is such a thing as too many cats in one house, as long as they're all being cared for? And if not, can you please tell Matt the benefits of introducing another cat to his house, maybe a Sphinx? Because my wife has always wanted a Sphinx cat, and they creep me out.
Really?
A little bit, man. I don't know. I need some fur to touch a little bit. Like I accept all shapes and sizes and whatever. But like
this conversation took a really weird turn. So I know that like my wife likes Sphinx cats too. So I've never really dealt with them. I have a buddy who has them. They're apparently super affectionate. They're very, very friendly. I understand that some people are kind of like weirded out by them, but their personalities are apparently absolutely great. I mean, it's hard to convince you of something if you're not sure. And I think with a cat, you need to be 100% sure. But there is definitely not a thing as like having too many cats, unless, of course, what you just said, if you can't care for them anymore, that kind of changes the game up a little bit. But for the most part, man, cats are just so much fun. They're amazing.
That's true. And if it doesn't, it's one that if it doesn't shed, that does help. I suppose that's a good thing. Eric Smith wanted to know, and I think you talked a little bit about like and music and stuff like that in previous conversations. But what band, past or present, would be your like dream pick to make a theme for you?
Oof. So right before I parted ways, me and Neil from W Music actually just finished my new theme song, which was, I don't even want to think about it too much because it was really good. And our goal was to have Behemoth cover it in their way. And Behemoth is one of those bands that I really like. Watain would be a good one. Amon Ra would be amazing. I just like very atmospheric type, like either black metal or like melodic, like death metal. I just like very atmospheric type bands that do that. I feel specifically the last few years of Behemoth, and maybe even before the Satanist, which is one of their albums. I felt that they've obviously I have a knack for theatrics. If you look at my characters and all the stuff that I have a knack for theatrics. So I like bands that do theatrical style stuff, but also, like I said, very atmospheric music, like Amun Ra. I used to really like older Cradle of Filth. I used to love their music videos because they were little horror movies, and anything that would anything that would guide my character that I would play on TV. And I think Hunter did a good job with that first theme song, because it meshed so perfectly, because it was the song was such a statement. So whatever band I can use to really make a statement for my character and tells the story partially by using their song as I'm walking out would be great. And I generally felt that like Behemoth would be a very good choice for that, because they kind of go hand in hand with the black and white aesthetic that I often use.
Yeah, no, absolutely. God, we're back to cats. I have a weird audience. Stephanie Jasic was you have 6 cats, many in the exotic Persian group, which you mentioned before. And what drew you and Thea to those kind of breeds?
I don't know. They just looked really funny to me. And I remember actually Tyler Bates' mom had one. She has one that's named Rupert. And I remember meeting that one. And I just thought, wow, they're even funnier in real life. And that kind of always stuck with me. And then when I got here, at one point I felt that I just wanted to have like a pet here, because I missed having pets. I used to have bunnies. I love bunnies. Bunnies, I think, they're fucking hilarious animals. Really, like, they have really strong personalities. So I was like, you know what? Let's see if I can find like someone who's like, is there a place that like you can adopt Persians, or is there a place that like, and I found someone that had an accident that was trying to get rid of their Persian, because apparently she wasn't meant to breed them. Oh. But apparently she had 2, and apparently one was a boy, one was a girl, and she didn't know that, and they hopped on one another. And so she was like, well, I don't need all these babies. And I saw that through, I don't remember how I found it, but it was local. And I was like, and I messaged her. I said like, hi, are you still? She's like, oh yeah, I've got like 4. If you want to have one, let me know. And I just went, and I remember the story was really funny. It was a very, was a small old lady, and she jumped out the car. We met in a McDonald's parking lot, which like, it sounded like we were doing a drug deal now that I look back at it. And she stepped out the car, and she was like little, and she just had this little tiny fluffy ball, and she just been like, ha ha, and she had like the cat, and I was like, oh, this is Toddy. And Toddy immediately went in my neck. It was really cute.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And finally, Dustin Whitaker wanted to know, and we haven't really touched on this yet, is there one tattoo that means maybe the most to you, or it has a significant backstory?
There's a few. My wedding tattoo is one. I've got, my wife has the same one. I've got like on my thigh, I've got a heart with 3 daggers, 3 swords through it, and 3 roses, representing like events in our life that we feel kind of like drawn us into each other. And we got this done by my tattoo's apprentice, who is at this point no longer an apprentice. So he's really good in like black and gray. Let me see if I can stand up and show you my leg. Normal thing. It's okay. This one right here. So that one's very meaningful. My back piece is very meaningful. I've always been a big, I'm a big proponent of equality, like no matter what. Absolutely. I think equality on its own is one of the most important things. I feel that, especially like, the past 2-3 years, that we've strayed so far from this whole, us versus them idea. And I hate it, because it shouldn't be that way. My decisions of how to live my life, if not directly impacting yours, should not make you feel some type of way. And vice versa. I feel like I don't feel we don't accept each other anymore. And I feel that equality now, with like, whilst being in the fight for equality, has kind of lost itself. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like it's like this side does this and then this side does this, instead of like they're fighting fire with fire versus like letting one side just do what they want to do, and in the other way around too. So my back piece is, and I explained this to you before, my back piece is Lilith, and in an earlier installment of one of the Jewish Bible, She was Adam's first wife before Eve. And she basically rebelled against paradise because she didn't want to listen. She didn't want to obey. And it's like a sign of like rebellion. It's a sign of like breaking free. It's a sign of like, I don't want to be treated like that. You either treat me equal or not. And no matter how many times like she got punished or banished, she just kind of kept that rebellious nature up until she was like transformed into, like she was thrown into the night or cast into the night. So, like it represents equality for like men and women. It represents equality in race. It represents equality in life. It represents like everything. It represents the equal balance between men, basically, and not men as in men, as in mankind, as in human beings, the equality within human beings. So that's why I carry that on my back, because I feel that like if we can just literally, and I don't do all the woke culture stuff. It's just not me. In that sense, and I also don't mean any disrespect by saying that. It's like I stand what I stand for. I wish that we can just stop jumping down each other's throats and just realize that we all come with our own story, and I wish that we would listen to each other's stories versus fighting someone first and then realizing why this person is the way they are. You know what I mean? Like we don't listen. We've lost the ability to listen. There was no more patience. And that's why I said, I feel that within the fight for equality, the equality is gone. And it's like, I find that it's demoralizing sometimes because it can be so easy, and
100%.
sure. And I feel that the fight is important. The fight for equality is important, but it should not cost. The fight for equality should not cost the equality. I feel like both sides are separating from each other further and further. No one listens. No one listens to each other anymore. And I feel that's a shame because we all have such stories to tell each other. If we would just sit down and listen, even if you don't agree with the person's, like, even if it's the most heinous way, there's a reason why this person is that way, and whether that is indoctrination from growing up or there was misunderstanding. And even on the other side, you don't know what that person went through. You don't know why this person expresses themselves this way. And I feel like we live in an age of complete individuality. Now more than ever are people comfortable, or at least trying to be comfortable with being who they want to be as human being, and whether you identify as, whatever you identify. Whether you are a transgender person, whether you are a gay person, it should not be this difficult for people on these sides to be able to say, hey, we all matter. You know what I mean? And again, I mean that in the sense that being accepting and tolerant of like each other's differences, because no person in this world should be castiged for the fact that they are different. It's our difference, and it's, again, I know that this whole talk sounds super cliche, but like the problem is it could be so simple as to embrace one another for who we are and sit down and say, you know what? Instead of arguing you, I'm going to listen to you. Tell me your story. Let me know what you think. And even then, you might still, because this is the right that you have as a human being, you don't have to agree, but please listen to me.
You literally took the words out of my mouth. I was like, we can listen to each other and disagree, but you gotta listen first. You know what I mean? So many people just go right to the shouting and right to, this is how I feel. I don't care how anyone else feels. I'm just gonna shout this out there and not take anything back. And I'm like, it's gotta be an exchange. You've got to hear each other. 100%.
My way is the way is what a lot of people live their life now. It's either the way I think because you don't think that way, so you are wrong by definition. It's just not how it works. And it's a shame that it's not like brought out to the light more, because like I said, I feel that we have a lot to tell each other. 100%. I think all of us. I think you and I just had a conversation, and we both on both sides did not know these things about each other. So I'm glad that we had the conversation because I'm better for it.
Yeah, 100%. And like, it's talk, please talk and listen, everybody. Yep. Thank you for doing my segue for me, because just like we just did. Yeah, had a great conversation and everything like that. Tommy, I appreciate your time. This one
Yeah,
even
man.
longer than I was planning, which is good. I love when that happens, when you can just kind of roll. So thank you for your time. Everybody check out,
Totally, dude.
where are you at on socials and stuff, that kind of mumbo jumbo?
It's at Tommy End on Instagram and at Tommy End on Twitter. You can find me on their twitch.tv/Thea Trinidad, which is obviously my wife's account, but I've hijacked it. You can find me on at blackmask_clothing for my clothing label. Come check it out because we're doing a lot of fun stuff. You also find me on twitch.tv/blackmask_official for the Black Mask Twitch. Come hang out, have a conversation with me, listen to what we have to say. We do these like strange paranormal streams on Friday where we basically talk about the weirder things in life, not necessarily like, we approach everything with a pretty skeptic mind. And we just like to, we like to talk to the audience, talk to ourselves amongst ourselves, like, what do we feel about this specific topic of conversation? And one of the things that we're currently talking about is like obviously the UFO craze that's going on right now in terms of like the government, releasing files on, what they know about UFOs, which I think they're not going to really release anything. You're just going to give us more questions than answers. But you can come in on Friday and hear us debate about that kind of stuff. You can come in on Wednesday and see us play awfully at Call of Duty. And on Monday, actually, right now, my friend Pablo is, because it's Monday while we're recording this, my friend Pablo is playing Fortnite. And I actually got into Fortnite a little bit ago, and it's actually kind of fun. I didn't think I was going to like it this much. But, do some silly gameplay coming out. We give away a lot of like, coupons and stuff. And, we just talk to you. There's a lot of interaction going on, which is good.
Nice. Absolutely. So everybody check out Tommy on all those platforms. Always be, always be talking, always be trying new things, always be listening to other people. And on this show, as we say, always be wrestling with whiskey. We will see you on the next one. Cheers.